begin to experiment also with meditating with your eyes open. It seems to be natural to maybe prefer eyes closed while you're really focused on tactile sensations, because there can be, if you're not used to meditating with your eyes open, the visual field can be quite distracting. But eventually you're going to go there. You will be meditating with your eyes open. And in fact, my entire 25 years of meditating, I've been meditating with my eyes open because I got started with the Lam Rim. And that's the advice in the Lam Rim. Meditate with your eyes open. And your eyes are cast, if you do, your eyes are cast downward. Say, kind of at the tip of your nose. That doesn't mean you're focused cross-eyed on the tip of your nose, but just down. But for me, it's out, about 10 feet in front of me is the sweet spot. And it's an unfocused gaze, meaning you're not focused on anything out there. It just kind of dissolves out there. And so, unless there's movement, you can just forget about, your eyes are open, so you get that increase of clarity. That's one reason. Later maybe we won't get there. The reasons for meditating, other reasons for meditating with your eyes open, but it really helps to promote clarity. And that's your cushion. You want to be high enough so that your knees can be almost down. And if you try to be too much of a yogi and sit on a flatter cushion, and your knees can't be, and your knees are up like that because of it, then you just need a higher cushion. So why don't we just go ahead while people are still, we'll just begin our meditation while people are still filtering in, and that's okay. We won't go far without them. You begin the process of settling your body in its natural state by releasing all thoughts, memories, fantasies, all concerns, and bring your attention into the body. And there, give your full attention, meaning your bare attention, to tactile sensations. And begin as always with those sensations of solidity and firmness where your body is contacting the floor. establish that base of relaxation by allowing your attention to roam throughout the body, noticing tactile sensations wherever they occur. And if among these sensations you notice any tension or any pain, allow your breath to be drawn to those sensations, as if magnetically. And then let the tension or pain ride your breath out of the body on the exhalation. Notice the degree of clarity that you have at the beginning of your meditation, and maintain that degree of clarity at least. As you continue to deepen your relaxation with each exhalation. You're just releasing all tension, as if with an inaudible sigh out of each out breath. And now to this balance of relaxation and clarity, we'll add stability. Direct your bare attention now to the abdomen. And take 3 deep, full breaths. Giving your full attention to those sensations of expansion and contraction. It's probably a more subtle sensation in the seated position than in Shavasana. After those 3 deep, full breaths, give up all control of the breath and settle the breath in its natural state. Meaning you let the body breathe itself. Without preferring that it be different. giving up control allows each breath to be fresh, unprecedented, a discovery. And now shift your attention to the nostrils. The more subtle object of the breath there. Give your full bare attention again to tactile sensations only. Let your attention be a stable gatekeeper there, noticing the passage of the air in and out, but without itself being moved by it. The key to stability is the exhalation. Give it your full attention, all the way through the entire course, and even through the pause that may occur before the inhalation. You can count your breath, if that is helpful, by punctuating that final instant of the out-breath. If your attention has been shanghaied, let your reflex be. Release your grasp on the distracting object. Return to your chosen object, those tactile sensations of the breath. And then relax ever more deeply, all the way through the entire course of the out-breath, and through the pause before the inhalation. give your full bare attention to tactile sensations only, at the breath, at the nose. Let that be the one thing that occupies your full attention. If your attention is becoming lax, or you're feeling lethargic, invigorate the clarity of your attention by focusing on the inhalation, focusing on the tactile sensations of the inhalation, and noticing the increase in clarity. If your attention is shanghaied, let your reflex be release, return, relax. You guys have another half hour in you before a major break for lunch?
Yep.
Wow, your stamina is amazing. So, and again, go ahead and stretch if you like, and use the restroom if you need to. Any comments or questions about that?
It's very challenging to keep pristine lucidity
Extremely.
on the breath. End of comment.
Yeah. It is.
It's like you can keep an awareness there the whole time, but to have it be vivid and
yeah, you know what you will discover is the key to the whole thing? Relaxing. Yeah. And it can just become an extremely compelling object. And then it could be also, I mean, the wonderful thing, frankly, about this system, I think, is that you're going to have a lot of choices. You know, we're still at the beginning of the choices that you're going to have. And it could be that your predilection is just going to lead you more towards awareness, spacious types of meditation. And so some people that will just naturally you know, and for some percentage of people that's the case. So, and then, you know, and it could be, so there's, what you will notice also is that we're not really going to have a chance to get into the awareness of awareness practices but this weekend. But when you do those and you just settle your mind in awareness with no object, for instance, and then you come back to the breath, it's like, wow, it's even more vivid, more compelling, the tactile sensations. Yeah.
So, I noticed something weird happening when I was focusing on my breath, that a couple of times my eyes wanted to move up and down as well.
Yeah, was that a novel experience? You hadn't noticed that before?
I have noticed it before, that, you know, I have a tendency to, it's like I should have a drishti, you know, even though my lids are closed. It's kind of like I don't know where to put my eyes. They're not, I guess they're not totally relaxed or something. I don't know what's, I don't know.
That would be, it seems to be an explanation for almost everything. That there's, you know, you're scanning, in a sense, you know, scanning like a tachistoscope, you know, putting together as if your eyes were open. Maybe you're, because you're slowing your attention down, you're aware of the way that our eyes always operate. It's just scanning and piecing together then all of these little excerpts into the brain, then just puts it all into one image. And so you're just noticing what happens when our eyes are open, and your eyes are operating as if they were open.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense, because I think I'm a visual artist, and so I think I use my eyes very intensely. So perhaps it's a habit, even when my eyes are closed, to continue to use them. Okay.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I've noticed, especially when I'm sitting up in meditation, that I move so quickly from like extreme excitation to falling asleep, like in the span of like a couple breaths. And so it's sometimes hard for me to apply the antidote, because I'm thinking there, like, you know, my mind's like moving off, like really distracted, like thinking about something, maybe wanting to move around a little bit. And then like I apply like the antidote of like focusing on the exhale, and then I'm asleep. I don't know if anyone else. Am I actually agitated, or am I just, you know, or am I dull? Or
yeah, I can go through the same thing in like a cycle of breath.
Yeah.
Wow, you guys are amazing. Because that's exactly where I want to go next, is to that experience. Well, we might as well do it then. We'll just reset. It's rare to have more than one Subhuti in the room at once. You know, who brings up who asks the question that leads to the teaching, right? So for some reason, I really enjoy this next part. You know, all of it's juicy, but for some reason, this part really seems juicy to me. Well, one, I love this practice, which is the Padmasambhava oscillation of the breath. So, to start with, to introduce this, we need to talk a little bit about Master Kamala Shila's 9 stages of meditation. And so these are very, very helpful to understand these 9 stages of meditation, because it helps us to understand where we are, a framework for understanding our experience, and actually what we can do then to apply an antidote to move on to the next stage. So the first stage is, or level 1, is called directed attention. And this is where you are able to place your attention on your chosen object, even if you're only able to keep it there for a few seconds. But again, as in golf terms, this is not a gimme. Because I can testify also that it is possible to spend an entire hour in meditation and never place your attention on your object. And it just happens when you sit down and off you go. And it's just for 1 hour, your mind is just spinning. And you never do get on your object. This is especially true if you have decided to use a visual image for your object. Because a visual image can take actually weeks of developing a visual image. There's some really great advice from Tantra about how you go about using a visual image from Ken Rinpoche. That's the neuroscience is, and Ken Rinpoche. You wonder how he knew that without knowing the neuroscience. But to see the entire image at once rather than build it up piece by piece, which is our habit. But it puts you into an entirely different hemisphere of the brain if you try to see the entire thing at once, three-dimensional, etc. Even if it's only a vague image, trying to do it that way. But it's difficult. It's really difficult. And so you can have a large part of your meditation career and never get to level 1. Meaning that you have not been able to place your attention on your object. So that's another advantage of using the breath, is that the breath is really, really easy to find. One thing, of course, that you're going to notice when you, at level 1, is just how chaotic and fragmented your attention is, because you're only able to keep your attention there for a few seconds, probably, before it flies off to something else. So you may think, this guy who came through town and taught me this meditation just ruined my concentration. It was a lot better before. But of course, you're just beginning to recognize how fragmented and chaotic your mind really is. So that's a good start. That's a very important first step. And then level 2 has a misleading name of continuous attention. It's misleading because it's not continuous, but it's continuous for very brief times. But it's a dramatic improvement. Continuous for up to about a minute. That's really pretty remarkable increase from a few seconds to a minute. And the key for getting from level 1 to level 2 is clarity. You can't become bored with your object if you're going to get to level 2. If you think that the breath is a boring object, for instance, your mind is going to just scatter off to a more alluring object, because that's what the mind is doing. It's always looking for an alluring object. And it will be boring. The breath will be boring if you are having a conceptual relationship with the breath. If you are doing it, viewing it as a mental image, as a map of the body, because those are all conceptual experiences, and your conceptual experiences are all perceived by the left hemisphere of the brain, which craves novelty. So if you're perceiving it as a living, moment-to-moment presence, you're perceiving it with the right hemisphere of the brain, which is, always, it's engaged with wonder. And so it is surprising, it is different, it's living. So that's the relationship that you need to have with the breath, and develop that if you're ever going to make it to level 2, because otherwise you're just going to be bored with the breath if it's conceptual. there are, as I said, two very important elements of developing shamatha. That's mindfulness and this introspection. And the introspection is telling you how, whether you're still on the road or whether you are in the left ditch or you're of excitation or in the right ditch of laxity, dullness. So at level 2, this introspection is described in the Lam Rim. When Pabonka Rinpoche describes introspection, he describes it as being like a sentry. And so a sentry is walking the rounds, because the Tsongkhapa in Lam Rim Chenmo says, when your introspection, how it's in a corner of your mind, an element of your mind, that is checking in periodically to give you the quality control report. Are you still on the road or are you in either of the ditches? How often should it check in? Tsongkhapa in one section says, often enough to be effective, but not so often that it becomes intrusive. You figure it out. The only one I've ever heard hazard a guess on, an actual figure on that was Master Chuladasa, who said about every 7 breaths, something like that. So it's going to vary, every 7 breaths. The sentry walks the perimeter, comes back to the front gate, and calls, all is well, you are still on your breath. Takes off again, around the perimeter, comes back every another 7 breaths. You are not on your breath. You are in the ditch. You have been shanghaied. You are at it's not the Bruins here, the Rangers game. Are the Stanley Cup still in? Or is that what's going on?
Mm-hmm. Played quarterfinals.
You know what I mean. You're shanghaied by something. Okay, that's the sentry model. That's the sentry model. Okay. Now, level 3, called resurgent attention. You are on your object 51% of the time. Whoa. These are really dramatic increases to move from level to level, aren't they? A few seconds, 1 minute. So, Geshe Michael, I remember saying at near the end of the Tantra series, so this was like course 17 or something. So 13 years of program already behind at that point. He said, I would guess that almost all of my Tantra students couldn't keep their attention on the breath for 30 seconds. And I think he was right. That's a pretty strong statement. That's something that people weren't at level 2 of shamatha. And most people who had been practicing Tantra for that length of time weren't at level 2 of shamatha. So to get from level 2 to level 3, now you can begin to sense, now you're getting into what for some meditators would be very rarefied territory. You're on your object 51% of the time. So when you're doing that, what's happening? Obviously, when you're on your object more than you're off your object, it means that you have been doing the reps at the gym and you have created that shunt from the default wandering mind over to the disengagement so that you are distracted for shorter and shorter periods of time, right? And you are being alerted more quickly that you have lost your object. So Pabonka Rinpoche in his Lam Rim says something very interesting and that I had always wondered about. But he says it only in one line. He has a couple of one-liners that it's like the pith advice, and then he goes on and does pages and pages of things that I think aren't as important. He says that to really develop, your introspection must become a motion detector. Leaves it at that. How does that happen? So you've got a sense, right? Wait a minute. The sentry is walking the perimeter every 7 breaths and is calling out all is well, or you're distracted. So if that really worked, you could never be distracted for longer than 7 breaths, right? Because, and this is the model that, everybody seems to operate under. That, you're going to, every 7 breaths, kind of wake up, because there's an independent function. But remember, the executive function gets recruited into, shanghaied along with the default wandering. That model just doesn't work. What happens is the sentry gets shanghaied along with mindfulness. So something else has to happen. You have to train your mind to become a motion detector, as Pavanka Rinpoche says. How do you do that? How do you do that? So essential if you're going to ever make it to level 3. So here, the way that we do that is by adding a 4th R. And that is, so far we have release, return, relax. We're going to add a 4th R. Release, rejoice. Rejoice about what? We've just been shanghaied for 10 minutes. I am lucid again. This really feels different. What you're doing is you're really recognizing the difference between this new lucidity, your recovered lucidity, and the previous 10 minutes of being non-lucid. So if you've been gone for 10 minutes, the difference is night and day. This is really it. And in fact, that's the way, what I do is I am lucid again. It's just, and experience a moment of sukha, of pleasure. And then this is it. Because now you don't have to wonder, what would it be like to be lucid in meditation? This is it. You will never be more lucid than you are right now when you have recovered your lucidity. And then it's all about sustaining that lucidity. So what's going on with that moment of sukha? It could be a little shot of dopamine, pleasure. But what you're really doing, in terms of the mind, is that you are teaching awareness what is important to you by what you attend to. So, you have never seen how many Priuses there are in New York City until you decide to buy one, right? Or until you're shopping for one. And then all of a sudden you notice, oh my God, at every stoplight there seem to be nothing but Priuses backed up. Every 3rd car, this is Los Angeles anyway, it seems like every 3rd car that you see is a Prius. I had never noticed that before until I thought I was going to buy a unique car, something that really distinguished me. So what's going on there? I have a friend in Seattle who, when I saw him this happened probably a year and a half ago already, he said, something really weird is going on. I'm seeing the numbers 1 and 11 everywhere. Addresses, text messages, billboards, 1 and 11 everywhere. I think the aliens are sending me a message, but I don't know what it is. So what do you think? He said, it's definitely more than is statistically probable. What do you think? Really? Is that likely? Well, what are you noticing of the millions of things that you could be attending to right now? It's a fraction, right? A tiny fraction of what awareness has available to attend to. Why this thing that you're attending to? because it has salience. It has some power. It means something to you. You have been, because of your experience, your mind has said, whenever this shows up, alert me to that fact. Let the alerting function be alerted of attention so that I can attend to it, because this is important to me. When she walks into the room, let me know, because this is important to me, etc. Right? So this is my friend saw 1 in 11 twice, probably. And he said, this is weird. I saw it this morning, I saw it again at lunch. 1 in 11. Huh, curious. And then, so awareness then was alerted, oh, this is interesting. Let me know whenever 1 in 11 shows up. And so that's how it happens. So what you're doing is, with the moment of pleasure, with the rejoicing, you're training awareness. This is important to me. And recognizing the difference between this lucidity and being non-lucid. This is how you go about training your attention, or your introspective awareness, more accurately, to be a motion detector. Alert me to the fact when I am losing lucidity, because this is really different. When my awareness goes in motion, let me know. So those are the 4 R's. So now we have release, rejoice, return, and relax.
Could you not say that the habit of wanting another shot of that rejoicing for having fixed what you lost by returning could become a habit itself, and go, oh, I want another shot. Oh, look, I got distracted here again. And I got distracted here again. And, oh, that's nice.
Oh, and so that would lead to distraction?
Yeah. Oh.
I don't think so, because what is really the pleasure is the lucidity. And so it's not just, it's the lucidity is a lot more fun than the rejoicing even.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you'll just notice it. It's the lucidity. Let me know the lucidity is pleasure. The lucidity feels good.
So being there is that.
Yeah, and that's what you're really. So it's what you're doing is recognizing this state of mind is real. There's real pleasure in it. The lucidity. Why would that be in what Killingsworth and Gilbert were talking about it? Because you had been wandering before, which always people report as being less happy than present focused attention. So that could be another explanation for why that would naturally feel better. But lucidity, just being lucidly present, this is what I want. Let me know when I am losing it. So, that's what you really have to develop in order to get to level 3. Now we're going to talk about level 4, called close attention. So here's something really dramatic is happening. You are no longer losing your chosen object altogether. And so for a lot of people, if you weren't well-educated shamatician, you could think, Eureka, I've done it. I have reached shamatha because I'm no longer losing my object. Isn't the whole point of meditation not to lose your object completely? Why is that only not even halfway there? Only level 4 of 9.
As long as you want.
It's because at level, here is something really interesting. This is the first time where in this system of Master Kamala Shila, where you are introduced to something called peripheral attention. Before that, you are either on your object or you're off your object, night and day, because it's coarse excitation. You're either on your object or you have lost you're in the ditch. But now, with this one, now at level 4, you are no longer losing your object altogether, meaning you have conquered, or you are free of, coarse excitation. You are no longer losing your object altogether. So what's going on? You can here, it's helpful probably to think about attention as a bullseye. And so far you have been either on the target or off the target. And now there are concentric rings in the target. And here you are not losing your object altogether, but it has gone, your chosen object, let's say the tactile sensations of the breath, have gone off into peripheral attention. And an unchosen object is in the center of your bullseye. So if this were a radio station, it would be coarse excitation would mean that you were, for instance, let's say tuned to a jazz station here on Manhattan. And I don't know where you would go these days to, lose the signal, probably out to sea. You're headed out to sea, and your dial is still set at 91.5. But as you're headed out to sea, you just lose, coarse excitation. No, that's wrong. So you're here in Manhattan, so that would be coarse dullness. You're headed out to sea, and all of a sudden there's no signal at all coming in. You lose the signal. So that's coarse laxity, meaning you've fallen asleep basically. You've lost your object. With coarse laxity or dullness, it's as if your attention has sunk into the recesses of your mind. It is no longer rises to engage the object. Coarse excitation, there's a scattering of your attention. So that would be like you set your station to 91.5 here in Manhattan, and you're driving to Queens or something, and at 91.5, you set it to jazz because you like jazz. 91.5, all of a sudden, that's a country station. So something else has replaced your chosen object, and it's something you didn't choose to replace it, because you don't like country, let's say. Now, in this analogy now with medium excitation, it's like, I don't know if this is possible with modern digital tuners or not, but in my old 61 Chevy, you could tune the dial and 2 stations would come in at once. So let's say you drive now from, you have one of those tuners anyway, and you tune it to 91.5. This probably happens more with AM stations than FM, I don't know. But you tune it to one station, it's coming in, and then you drive, and another station is coming in as well. So you're actually getting 2 stations, but your unchosen station is the loudest. So what's happening is that the unchosen object is in the center of the target. Your chosen object, the peripheral or the tactile sensations of the breath, are out in peripheral attention. And what's going on? You're toggling back and forth. And so what's happening is you're toggling back and forth fast enough so that you're patching the gaps, as Geshe-Michael calls it. Meaning, when you are returning to your object soon enough, it's like you still have some momentum. You're gliding still on your past momentum. So it's not like you have to kind of restart all over again. You kind of reconnect with your object while it still has momentum. So your chosen object is out in peripheral. Your unchosen object, it could be a succession then of unchosen objects. Now it's country music, now it's Rangers game, now it's baseball, now it's fashion, whatever, But still out in peripheral attention, there's the constancy of your chosen object. So you're not losing it altogether, but you can't say it's single-pointed concentration, right? Because you're toggling back and forth. So that's a big improvement, but it's still not the end of the game. So, I think we'll just leave it at that for the moment. And then when we come back, we'll introduce and do the Padmasambhava oscillation. So this is then how you use that fact, because what we have been doing is talking about an evolution of your introspection and why your introspection has to evolve from being a sentry to becoming a motion detector. Where could it go from there? What I call being, your introspection must become a close companion of your mindfulness. Basically almost giving you real-time reports. And how could that happen? Because of this peripheral attention. Once you reach a certain level of stability, you can be having basically your introspective awareness in peripheral attention, your chosen object in the center, and be getting real-time reports. Am I becoming lax? Am I becoming excited? Because you know you can go very quickly from one to the next. And that is what the whole Padmasambhava oscillation is all about. So we'll do that after we come back from a 45-minute lunch break. So we'll reconvene then at 2:15. And I hope that's long enough to get something or chill out, relax, stretch, and enjoy yourselves. Well, I am all set. Yeah, I have a little snack with me.
Yes, lo que va a hacer Steve. What do you want to do, Steve?
There's no compression on the street.
Yeah. Hay un buen semaprecious en Cuarta Avenida.
¿Tiene ensalada?
Tiene ensalada.